You have been very open and honest for a long time about your story, but now to have it all in one spot that you're literally putting out for the world to read and listen to, how are you feeling?
As I went in to do the audiobook, I was still a little bit terrified, not of my story, just of maybe going into this much detail in a memoir of some old ghost of being judged, of having eye rolls, having, people go, oh yeah,
Hmm.
now you're telling this, and putting some pretty horrible rumors to rest. There's not a moment in this memoir that you're not in it with me. And I didn't really feel that, Anthony, until I went into to do the audiobook. And it was the first time that I was able to sit down and breathe and go, okay, this is this is happening. It's important. And it's going to bring something to you that you don't know what it's going to bring yet. And I didn't know about resolve. I didn't know about, I never even thought about redemption because it's like that was just too far fetched. But it was my mother, this Mama Peggy, who really has a large presence in this.
She
That
does.
yeah, that sat down to coffee with me after she had read it, and I expected a book report, but I didn't get that. All I got was, "Son, I love you. How does redemption feel?"
Wow.
And coming from her, it was a really huge circle because I knew that she felt redemption
Yeah.
in some places that she had never even we'd never even discussed. And she said, all I wanted to do in those moments when number one, David Ritz is one of the most visual writers I've ever encountered. So you're walking through this journey, you're sitting right next to me. It's that visual. And she said, there were just moments that I wanted to Mom said, I put the book down and I virtually hugged you.
Oh,
And so, um, you're my friend, and we're gonna speak honestly because you're going
yeah.
out to a lot of people that we call friends, whether we've met or not. Um, I had no idea the extension of the tentacles of love that would go out from this.
Hmm.
And I have heard it from sitting down with huge national media where they said, I'm going to just turn off the camera for a minute and just tell you, oh my God, I have I have read a lot of things, but no one wants to say this much. Or man, you did a tell-all, but you did a tell-all on yourself. And just some of those really beautiful moments that I've had with people who've sat down and read it. Actually, my own family. I was so my favorite cousin. She's just outspoken. She goes for her mile walk every morning, y'all, and she said, "Okay, I'm going to put this on and listen to it." She said, "My God," she goes, "I was 15 miles down the road. I had to call my husband to come get me." And I was
She just
like,
kept going. Yeah.
"That's all we want, right there." But some of the most critical people in my life um, have surrounded me with love, and I have so much gratitude. I mean, that's a really long way around the moon to get back to how I'm feeling. I'm feeling so much gratitude. I'm feeling heard. I'm feeling seen, and I am feeling understood.
What's the thing that you want people to really take away from your story specifically? Because you're really open about the challenges that happened, but then also how you found your way. And, I think that's inspiring to a lot of people.
For the longest time, I told a version of this story that I thought people wanted to hear. The one that fit into their expectations, but never my own expectations. And I think I painted myself into such a corner by the time that I ever got around to thinking about what do I want, and why is this circle of insanity? Why does it keep happening? What this book gave me was answers. And let me tell you something right now, folks. In none of the answers that I expected. I had no idea walking into this room with David Ritz for the journey I was about to take that started a little over 2 years ago, that I had no idea of the timeline of my life. I had no idea how much I had not talked about. I had no idea how much I had buried so deep in trauma that it took an a crew of escalators to even to break the surface. That's how strong my armor was. That I'm not going to talk about this. I'm never going to go back there because this is too much. But as we started to unfold the onion, as we started to do the timeline, And thank God for Jay Flowers, me in mentally good shape. I was able to excavate those rooms and find the key and go inside and say hello to some old demons and say some hello to some old traumas that have defined me that I've never been able to speak about. I know that this resonates with so many people because as we grow up, as things keep happening, as we keep pushing down, and the blacktop happens, and then another layer of blacktop, it's almost impossible to get to the answers that truly can define the behavior. I try to keep this as much layman terms as I can, not that people won't understand it, but so that I will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, walking into some of these rooms that I was given the choice, you don't have to talk about the sexual assault. You don't have to walk through the details of that arrest. You can just basically say how you felt about it. But then I thought to myself, well, why in the hell am I doing this book then? These are this is a book that 100 years from now, it'll be like the Velvet Rages for me. It never has dust on it. I almost go back to it like a Bible. And I hope that this is where this resonates and sits with people, that it is it's a book of what not to do, and if you do it, how to deal with it.
You mentioned the sexual assault, which I know is going to be surprising for people, but also I think it's important for people to read and to hear how you were able to process that. How do you think that telling that story for this book continued to allow you to heal in that process? Because again,
Wow.
I think it's fair to say that that's not something that you ever get over. It's a process of, healing and being through it, right?
We've seen so many brave women who've come forward and changed the world with their stories, but there's still a massive silence around men.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to break that glass, and I'm at a place right now where I'm not defined by what happened to me, but um, by sharing it, I'm hoping that other men who carry that weight can process it
Mm-hmm.
and heal without. It's never been about naming any names. Never been about a great forgiveness. This is what you find in you, and what gives you the strength to hold your head up and have all the integrity that you were meant to have, and all the pride, and just whether you're gay, straight, whatever, that you can enter a room with confidence and not let that lead the way,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a brokenness in me from that. And another thing that I really wanted to make clear, especially with gay men out there, for years I blamed myself. For years, I was 20, barely 21 years old, and wow, the excitement of it, I allowed the drink, to drink it all, and I allowed the drug for the first time, and I allowed someone to come into a space that I thought was safe, and to and hours and hours later to know what was happening to me, and the layer of abuse and trauma that set in on me. Just a kid, just a really naive kid in Hollywood. But I walked away from that wanting to commit suicide. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, seeing my one first of three angels that appear in this book, and carrying a heavy, heavy space in my heart that said, I did this to myself. And then later in the book, you find out that I was told I was never to speak of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the way things were. And I carried it and carried it for years and years. And it was not until I was 57 years old that I understood that I had to speak about it. And that was the deepest room to dig and to get into that space. And the breath that I took, the exhale that I took when I finally got to speak of it, and for it to come out of my mouth, this wasn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
This is something horrible that happened to you, and it's time to talk about it. And I didn't want to. As David Ritz was like, I don't, I was still shrouded in shame and guilt. And if this book gave me one of the greatest gifts of my life, it was to finally breathe and let go of stuff that was beyond my control.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of folks out there that are still going through that.
And I think this book will will be helpful for them in that process. One of the things that was heartbreaking but also really interesting was, your father died at 45, and you in the book you talk about how your relationship with him, you never totally felt like you were accepted, but there was obviously moments of support. But then there's a point in the book where your mom says to you, your dad's best friend was gay. I think he totally would have been, happy for you now. I mean, what is it? I mean, I know you talk about talking to him in your dreams, but it's like,
Yeah.
being at this place that you are now, like if you wrapped your head around what you might even say to him, like now that you're telling your whole story.
Well, I had the greatest gift of doing a lot of healing with my father, even though he is gone, sitting across from someone that represents your dad, you get to, hear the things that you needed to hear from him and say the things you needed to say to him. I wish that he'd lived longer, that I think he had a great sense of humor. He had some problems, but through the miracle of self-discovery and trauma work, I was able to not only heal myself, but heal him
Hmm.
and he'll for generations. It's really amazing the magical things that can go on in healing. But I think he would have probably fell out laughing and he just said, "Oh my God, kid, I just wanted you to have a great life. I don't care that you didn't want to kill Bambi. I don't care that you couldn't fix a car. I just wanted you to have a good life." And I think my father was always trying to make me strong because I was kind of a little bit of a weakling as a kid. I could sing my ass off, but I had no, I wasn't like the rest of my cousins. I wasn't like, I'll whoop your ass, the kind of thing. That wasn't me. I might have grown up to be that a little bit when I was taking up for others, but I think Dad would have been a really great guy to talk to about a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff. And it doesn't surprise me that he had a best friend that was gay, because he made friends easily, But I was actually really surprised to find out that Gary was gay. I was like, okay, I was like, well, shoot, he was cute.
Yeah. That's so funny. One of the things that the book does a really good job of, we've heard so many different things about your life, but it really puts them into perspective in terms of timing and the way they happen. I don't even think I fully realized that the incident in with the police in Texas happened literally as you just had a number one song. It was
Yeah,
so like, you know what I mean? Like at 31 years old, you like, all right, I finally get this big deal
yeah,
in with Sony in Nashville, and then it, you know, it all kind of I just didn't realize. And then you do such a good job about talking about how the business of country music was in the 90s and how, let's let the drug addict be the headline and bury the other part of this. You've been a part of making Nashville and country music more inclusive. How do you think that a situation like that would be handled today? Do you think that I know it's made advances, but what's your thought on that?
if something like that happened today, we've had versions of it, uh, and 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 now everything is so well. That happened. That didn't happen. That can you prove that? This didn't happen. And what I would hope would happen today that people would care enough, like they did about me, to get that guy some help. As far as an LGBTQ person going into that much hiding to have a career, I don't think that's possible today.
Right.
I think that there's been enough inclusion and information now that artists can, maybe be quiet about it and but still be supported and be a great songwriter, be a great singer, and just
Yeah.
really lead with that. Um, I didn't have anyone coaching me that, hey, let's just get you, let's just make sure you're okay. You're a great artist. And no, you don't have to get married. No, you don't have to, have your partner of 10 years, the cowboy stand up for you. Your best man had a fake wedding. How's that going to affect him down the road? How, God bless Renee, who after that arrest got tied in 10 more years of being, in People magazine and Entertainment Tonight as America's sweethearts. And then have burning up the back alley between those two homes and just what it was, how it was decaying me and them. And one of the big things in this memoir that I say, this is a tell-all, but I'm telling on myself because my life truly affected people um, that were there for me, but they had no idea how it was going to affect their mental stability and
Mhm.
their lives. And then me being a drug addict because I couldn't deal with it all, um, and just disappearing, and having this huge moment that I'd worked for my whole life.
Yeah.
And then, you know, God was speaking to me that when you read this book, you want to slap me upside the head because
Ha.
those drugs got lost. They were taken, and I went back and got more, and then just having being the airhead that I could be back then, a little bit today too, running out of gas and floating into a gas station. And then here's where things just get like, well, sure, here's this. I've never been to this park a day in my life. The word park attached itself to me like a tattoo on my forehead for almost the remainder of my days. And then just, hey, just got all these, drugs. Let's go in here. I got to go to sound check. I need to fix, all these words that just ick me out today. And then just what followed from that in this book, David writes so incredibly well. You're walking with me on that path. You're with me when you look up and see this really great looking character, and then what ensued after that, and then the follow suit, and then having a moment where you hear somebody say, "Listen, cowboy, I know who you are, and this ain't your day." And knowing in that moment that nothing, absolutely nothing you could say was going to change this. And then the reader gets, my dear friend who's a country artist, who I'll let her do her own review, said, I got into that unmarked police car with you
Hmm.
because I felt every inch of your terror, because you didn't know this was an unidentified police officer in an unidentified car that you were being put into, handcuffed, face down, and 7 hours later until you finally talked this dude into taking you to your tour bus. What happened in those 7 hours set a mental state for me that was more than a nervous breakdown. It was you walked through this with me. It was complete terror of not forget the rest, absolutely forget what had happened. Where this takes an intense turn is that this should never happen to any human being.
Right.
Yes, I was a drug addict. Yes, I misbehaved. Yes, all of that is true. But in the hours that followed, right down to uh, me forgetting about the Il Basante, well, all that's just packed full of drugs, and this, all seeing it all in slow motion as that officer hands that, and then I'm thrown into a padded cell,
Hmm.
and um,
Only to have
uh,
a security guard ask for your autograph.
a really sweet. That was an angel. That guy
Yeah.
was he was so kind. He goes, Mr. Herndon, and doing those little things. He said, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Can I get you a blanket?
Yep.
Someone showed me compassion. And
Yeah.
from that moment on in my life, I've always shown that kind of compassion for anyone that needs it. But and bless his heart. Hey, my wife loves your music. Could you sign this? Almost like I didn't take offense to that. It was almost like, oh my gosh, I matter for a moment here. And then looking out that little window in that cell and seeing a police officer talking to a radio station was one of the most chilling and horrible moments that I sobering. I was like, that's it. And it was, my mom had to hear about it on the radio, on the
Yeah.
news, and it was and from that moment on, it's a roller coaster ride, Anthony. But you get back to Sony, apologizing to the label, doing a press conference in front of the rehab facility, which
Right.
would never happen today. And whoo, so it was good to be able to for people to really take that walk with me, so they could understand that it was more than just a screwed up hiccup. There is almost a Stephen King mystery to the moment of going back to the drag queen, to the moment of hitting Sierra Tucson, those gates.
Hmm.
Having my entire family there for my first number one party in Nashville. I mean, it could not be written in more of a nightmare.
I want to preface this that you are married now, Alex, and you have been married for a couple years, very much in love. But like anyone, there's a lot of road to finding that. And you are very open in this book about talking through, your previous loves, which there were so many that not so many, but there were some that
There were a
I
lot.
was so many. No, there were some that that I had no idea of, and obviously out of respect for privacy, you give a lot of them aliases. We're talking about cowboy,
Yeah.
suave, and beyond. What was it like for you to kind of put all of that out? Because you're letting people in on a piece of your life that you were keeping very secret for a long time.
Yeah, well, I was very, very, one of my things that I said from day one, if you were in the press with me at any point, then yes, we would use your name, but
Yeah.
it would be with the utmost respect. And if you weren't, and it was a tumultuous time, then I'm also going to treat you with respect, because this was not an opportunity for me to throw anyone under the bus, because I did enough of that for myself. But Cowboy was one of the great loves of my life. And like I said in the book, to this day, if there was anything I would change, it would be the way that I exited and left that relationship, because it truly was quite beautiful. I just didn't know how to be beautiful back anymore. I had decayed it to the point of that it was decaying him and her, and the only way out was to run, was to leave, and I would never do that today. That's not in my ability of my psyche. But thank God that all of these men and women that I speak of, for the most part, they're all in my life today, and they're doing well. If they were going to be interviewed for this book, they agreed to. If not, they trusted me to tell the story correctly, and I think we did that. I think that you feel how much love that I have for Cowboy. I think that me leaving and going to LA, there was some raw, terrible, funny moments with Swab, and then talking to moments of with management, and leaving this is so full of history. And chaos, and it took David Ritz had to pull me out of 4 or 5 corners where I was just not devastated about what had happened, devastated about what I had done to others in this, because it never came home to me so hard as it did in a healthy space, that I would go back into those rooms and think, oh my God, how they must have felt.
Hmm.
Seeing Suave standing in the rain when he finally let go because my addiction had taken back over, and leaving Cowboy, um, and Renee and Dallas, and just moving on to a new life, and leaving all my wreckage behind. When you have to take a look at that within yourself, and actually kind of for the first time make some amends that you didn't think you'd ever get to make, but they were completely received, was life changing for me. And this book is also, I think, a big excel for some of these folks as well. It's got the biggest heart. This book is a beating heart for not only me, for every person in it.
You're in such a good place. We're in 2026. You and I have talked about 2020 and and COVID, and how, that was a really dark time for you, but you've rebounded obviously and are on this amazing path. What is it like for you now to be telling your story, but like I said, you're happily married. I've heard you're like, maybe we're gonna have a baby. I don't even know, like open to everything. I mean, I think it's so nice to see you in such a good spot.
Thank you. Now, I was sitting next to Colton Underwood and his husband at the GLAAD Media Awards, and we definitely were talking babies. So that's
Yeah, he's got a baby. Listen, it's never too late.
so it is never too late. We just go with the flow of what's next around here. So we're just so good. Alex is such a gift. I mean, you've met him. He's such a
Yes.
positive light, and honestly, I just wake up every day and go, "Oh, thank God you're still here." He was such, Alex was. I left it completely up to him. If we could have easily ended this in a really good place prior to the marriage, and it would have still been a great book. So I left Alex's story up to Alex to tell. And one Sunday afternoon, he walked in and said, "Hey, I just got off of a 4-hour chat with David Ritz." I'm like, "Okay." 10 seconds later, David Ritz calls me, goes, "Oh my God, some enchanted evening. We have an ending."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, good.
You're like, good. We like a happy ending. That's good. Yes. And it's not
Yeah.
over. It's still going.
Yeah, like, yeah, man, because Alex has, we share some ghosts, and it's part of the fabric that bonds us. And so I was happy that he wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. And listen, it's hard in the moment to understand, but as my grandmother always says, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Just a reminder, everyone, what mattered most is out now. It's going to be you're first off, there it is right there. You can do the reading of the book, but also it's a real treat, let me tell you, to listen to the audiobook. You get to hear Ty himself tell a story, and what a wild ride. And also fun little tidbit just to also tell people Vince Gill also has a little spot in the audiobook in the beginning, so that's also
Yeah.
a treat.
It's a treat.
It's so good.
He
But Ty,
called
I'm
me.
so I'm
He,
so
he
happy for
called
you.
me. He called me. I was in the truck with some friends. They said, I said, oh, you guys, Vince is calling. I was like, Vince Gill's called. Um, but he said, hey, bud, he goes, I just want you to know I enjoyed that. He goes, I didn't need to read the book because I know your story and I love it because I'm going to read it. But when he called back, he said, just so you know, about halfway through, just wanted to say, hell yeah.
And I bet he didn't know all those stories. You know what I mean? He
No.
thought he did, but yeah.